So first of all, you have to remember that Indonesia was a country that has been colonized.
Of course.
And that leaves a trace.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And they're super open, they're super happy. Like Indonesia, and one of the things that makes me laugh so much is my wife is South African. They're also being colonized, obviously. And they have very bad feelings about that. Indonesian is almost like, it's fine, you're Dutch, come, welcome back. Like they're so happy, and they're too nice. Yeah. This is what I don't like about Indonesia. Sometimes they're too nice.
Not online though.
No, online they're brutal. In Jakarta is the #1 city in the world for amount of tweets.
Oh really?
Yeah, they don't play the
netizen army. Yeah.
But this is the thing. So first of all, there's the colonialism component. The second thing is that people don't really realize what Bali is, because many people treat Bali like Ibiza, like Tenerife. Like those are party islands. Bali and the Balinese people, just like many Indonesian people, are so rooted in religion and culture that is such a big disrespect that you're bringing to them. And so, like, I just imagine, so they are very welcoming people. Of course, they also make money off of tourism. It's fine, obviously. But they're welcoming, and they see disrespect every day disrespect. At one point, of course, you become, even the nicest person is like, fuck, I've had enough.
Yeah. There was a real, climax with all that. Around 2 years ago, with, a lot of the Russians, there was, huge articles all over, New York Times, Guardian, Nilu was getting interviewed and everything. And there seems to be such a clash because there was such an influx of Russian people. And like you said, compared to Indonesians and Balinese, who are very kind and welcoming, if you see a Russian person, in the supermarket, for example, you're behind them.
No smiles.
No smile, no nothing, no anything. It's a big, big clash. And it seemed to come to a head. And for a minute, I thought it maybe got more serious, but it seemed to have calmed down a little bit these days. But for one moment there, it was like,
well, what happened in Sri Lanka with the Russians also?
They got banned, their visas revoked.
Yeah, but you know why?
White party, right?
Yeah, the white party. So they did a party for Russian people, and they were like, dress code white, face code white. So if you're not white, you cannot get. And they were like, do you know this is fucking Sri Lanka? What the fuck?
Yeah.
But this is, and also it's such an interesting conversation to have, because on one side, of course, they bring money, and Russian turn farmers to millionaires.
Yeah, it really helps the local economy in a way.
The thing is, I think, and they appreciate a lot when you just try a little bit to integrate.
Yeah,
they don't expect you to completely integrate. Just you say 2 Indonesian words and they give you the biggest smiles.
Yeah,
Indonesian people are genuinely kind people. But you see many people come here, they don't give a fuck.
No.
And another thing, because usually the bigger problem are the Russians or the Australians. For the Australians, there is a reason because of it. And I think is the geographical reason. Because I have a joke about this. I'll give you the bit. And my bit is that I ask if there's anyone from Europe, and then I say that in Europe, we know for a fact that British people are terrible human beings. Like, that's a fact of life for us. Because every summer, especially in Southern Europe, they raid the coasts of Italy, of Spain, of Greece. They fight all the time. But then you watch the Hollywood movies, and the British guy is always like smooth. He can talk to girls. He doesn't have any puke stains on his shirt. And you're like, I've never seen a British guy like that. That's not the British people that I know.
Yeah.
Now, in Europe, we love Australians. They're funny. They're easygoing. And then you come to Bali. And the first time I came to Bali, I went to Kuta, and it took me 5 minutes to realize why the hooligans, the British, ship these people to the most remote part of the world. And so this is my theory. And the theory is this: the shortest the distance, the biggest the asshole. That's why in Italy we have the British people that we have, and here there's nice British people considering they're British, and that's why in Europe we have the nice Australians, and here we have the shitty Australian, because if you just want to go party, if you just want to go and get wild, this is the closest place to Australia. Now, the only exception to the rule is the French, because they suck everywhere. It doesn't matter where they are. and then I also close the joke by saying this. So following my theory, consider this. Moscow is 10,000 kilometers away from Bali. St. Petersburg is 10,500 kilometers away from Bali. The good news is that we have the best Russians in Bali. The scary news is that we have the best Russians in Bali. I mean, could you imagine what Russian people do to their neighboring country? Never mind.
Oh, God. Fucking hell.
But it's
That's
true.
A good one. No, it's true. It's true. It's economics, basically,
Exactly.
right? Yeah. Cheap flights.
Because you're not going to fly from England to Bali just to get fucked and drunk.
No.
It costs too much to do that.
Well, even I see a lot of memes about English people. I mean, some people pay to go on holiday in the south of England. We call it the English Riviera. Cornwall, Devon, places like that. But you're spending like £3,000 on an Airbnb to still see British post boxes, Tesco supermarkets, whereas
for you it's cheaper to go to Tenerife, to go to Greece, to go
Benidorm, these places that English people have just taken over.
I remember when I worked in Crete. There was a place called Manlia, and there were these kind of clubs, and in one of them you couldn't enter if you were not Irish. Because it was only, and even in Tenerife, I used to live in Playa de las Americas.
Yeah.
Only British people.
Yeah,
you wouldn't even hear Spanish. The Veronica. I
worked there so many times as a kid.
I worked in the Veronicas. 2 years I was in that area. Yeah, I lived 2 years there.
I had some interesting experiences on the Veronica Strip as a kid growing up. Trying my first absinthe there.
But that's Bali for Australians.
Yeah, true. All the schoolies, they leave, they go to Kuta.
So it's not like that they're bad or they're worse tourists. It's that if you want to go and get fucked, you're from Australia, you go to Bali. You're from England, you go to Tenerife or Ibiza or whatever. You're from Italy, you go to Rimini or you go to Ibiza.
Even more in Australia because their cost of living is so fucking high.
Exactly, and that's the only place.
Like,
and that's the only place that you can read. Like for an Australian to go to Ibiza it's not going to be accessible at all.
But to come to Bali, where the cost of living and the cost of
especially if you're you're in Perth, like
it's not even far, right?
Exactly, it's not far. It's the closest flight. Even is closer to go to Bali than to go to other places in Australia. Of course, the cost of living, because in Australia it's so high, it's going to be so low.
Do you think the main problem with tourists in Bali now then is no longer the Australians and these kind of rowdy tourists, or do you think there's a bigger problem? I mean, this kind of vigilante social media stuff, a lot of people are doing it. You've done your fair share. A lot of other people are doing it. And it's even now where somebody's crashed a scooter into a fence and forgot to pay for it, and everybody's sharing reels.
Yeah, now everyone is doing it, which I like. Well, the thing also about Australian is that they kind of took over parts of Bali. Yeah. But it's fine that they stay there, they do their thing there, they fight between themselves. Yeah. They don't bother the Balinese in a way. That's why it's less of a problem. The problem is that now at least this is my opinion, I might be completely wrong, and the Balinese might tell me to go fuck myself, which fair, is that we are slowly taking over other parts of Bali. This is becoming the problem. The problem is that as long as you were just in Kuta and stuff, it's fine. But then from Kuta became Seminyak. And then from Seminyak, it became Canggu. And from Canggu, it became Peranan. And now he's going to Kedungu. Like, you see, it's almost like a wound. It's almost like a pandemic. Like, we're the virus.
Interesting. I mean, for people who don't know, a lot, the international perspective is that Bali's overrun with tourists and there's so many tourists.
Bali's huge.
But that's the thing, Bali's huge. And luckily, they've done it in a way where they've just crammed all the tourists together. I mean, we're all in Canggu, surrounded by buildings, narrow roads, and we're just kind of put into these special economic ghettos where they can just milk us for as much money as possible. And I think, well done.
Yeah, exactly.
Well done.
And this is also the beauty of Bali. Like, I know people, expat that have been living in Bali for 2 years, they only see in Canggu, Ubud, and Uluwatu. That must you drive half an hour, 1 hour, you see beautiful places. You see Canggu, you see beaches with nobody, you see waterfalls, you see temple. There's so much to see in Bali.
Yeah. But maybe over time with the new railway coming, the underground railway, a second airport, who knows what the future holds?
We'll see when it happens. Like the airport in the north, I remember that we're talking about it even before I came 6 years ago, and it's still to be built. It's still to start to be built. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, maybe with the change in the government now, maybe something is going to happen.
Or maybe that's because it's not happening because the new government might have different ideas.